Your child is born. With new life comes new hope, a hope for the future. When autism steals your child's words, steals your child's smile, it feels like all hope is lost. Recent statistics show that 1 in 166 children has autism. At the 2004 DAN conference in Washington, D.C., DAN doctors, scientists, and parents alike shared their views on what they believe the future holds for this disorder. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear personal insights from such noted authors and speakers as Dr. Stephanie Cave, Dr. Jane Eldar, Lynn Hamilton, Dr. Bernard Rimland, and Dr. Andrew Wakefield. Join us now as we answer the question, is autism treatable?
The classic autism is a failure of attention, a failure of kids to attend to their environment, to attend to their parents, to learn from using attention.
And you'll know that the historical perspective of this problem is that it's the mother's fault, the refrigerator mother, it's purely genetics. None of these things have stood the test of time. They are relatively meaningless in the face of what we see now, this epidemic of children with particularly this regressive pattern of autism.
Our son was diagnosed with autism at 2 years, 8 months old. And at that point he had an IQ of 53, which is in the retarded range. He had no appropriate language. He said ee, he said wah 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 wah, which meant nothing. And he screamed. High-pitched, blood-curdling scream, just walk in a room, scream, and I had to figure out what he needed.
These children probably had normal chemistry at birth, but in giving them so much metal, and at birth we gave them 25 times EPA safe, 2 months we gave them 120 times, and then 100 times at 4 months, 120 times at 6 months. We literally took their liver detox chemistry down the tube.
And we're actually facing what most people would consider to be one of the most challenging of all problems that medicine is dealing with at this point in time, which is a young child off track, not developing normally.
Our approach has been to try to look at what is different in the metabolism of children with autism compared to normal children.
And what we're doing is looking at the cellular structure, the biochemistry for the child, looking at gut flora to see if the gut organisms are normal or abnormal, and they're usually abnormal.
Once we observe these abnormalities, what is the cause of that abnormality? Why are these kids, why do they look different than the normal children?
So we just did the simple thing. We said, do these gastrointestinal symptoms represent an underlying disease in the bowel, as the parents have said they believe they do?
If you evaluate them in routine fashion, standard workup for those specific symptoms, and you find no cause for these ongoing symptoms, and then you subsequently perform endoscopy and colonoscopy on them, you will find in over 70% treatable causes of these symptoms.
And this is the first clue that we had that there may be some underlying medical disease, not psychological, not behavioral, but medical disease that was amenable to understanding and therefore to treatment. The next thing was the parents said there is a move to put these children on a gluten casein-free diet. Now, that was very interesting because as gastroenterologists we'd had a lot of experience with the role of diet in celiac disease, the role of diet in treating patients who are in liver failure, who become encephalopathic. Fascinating, a link between the bowel and the brain, or the gastrointestinal tract and the brain. And so we as gastroenterologists were aware that there is some interaction between the bowel and the brain, often mediated by the chemicals that come from the food that we eat or the bacteria in the intestine. So this was nothing new to us.
And that gives us some clues. We can see what isn't working and where it's not working, and then we can target an intervention, a nutritional intervention designed to normalize that particular metabolite that is abnormal.
Practicing nutritional approaches combined with allopathic medical interventions, everything from cod liver oil to intravenous gamma globulin.
It makes sense that a diet would work. because if you're not metabolizing in the intestine these toxic opioid-like molecules, then they will get through into the bloodstream and hit the developing brain. And we know from experimental models that they injure the developing brain.
It was just amazing for me to come in with a theory based on our work that, oh, this is the culprit, this enzyme here, and have some clinician at the same time come in and say, if you give the cofactor for that same enzyme, it has, in some cases, remarkable improvements to be observed here.
That's what pills do. They change the metabolism, they block enzymes. You can do it with nutrition, without question.
When we put the children on a diet, what we see is a dramatic response in many children.
Everything that we learn correlates very well, I would say, with what other people in the DAN group in particular are finding.
Some children started speaking for the first time in a few